Now all she had to do was get out of this dark pit, and no one would know she'd been here. An hour at most, and she would breathe crisp mountain air en route to her appointment. On the other hand, if she followed that song and found what she feared, things would get loud and ugly. But the avian's desperate song continued, and Aurora could no more ignore it than she could the frightened cry of a child lost in the dark. She had to find that girl. Her mind made up, Aurora climbed rapidly. She had excellent hearing, but the mine was so large it was a miracle she'd heard the girl at all. If the avian stopped singing, it would be a nightmare to find her in the labyrinth of tunnels that zigzagged underground. Aurora angled in the direction the song was coming from, climbed into a tunnel leading in that direction, and ran. The mine was pitch dark aside from the custom-made lamps that kept the light-sensitive spiders from overrunning the main tunnels in the miner's absence. Placed intermittently, the lamps poured pools of blue light onto the floors and walls, so it felt like she was sprinting underwater. Occasionally she had to pause to listen, and twice she had to retrace her steps after ending up at a dead end. When the girl's voice wavered, becoming almost inaudible, Aurora stood waiting, unsure which way to go. She heaved a sigh of relief when the girl continued singing with renewed vigor and raced to follow the tenuous link. This led her to a disused section of the mine where danger signs warned of a collapse and old mining equipment barred the way. Aurora made a gap, took one of the emergency lamps from the wall, and pushed on into the rabbit warren of dark passages. It was as the singing died away that Aurora found the locked door behind a sheet of rusty metal. She made short work of the lock, but to her frustration the door wouldn't budge. Something barred it from the other side. She pressed her ear against the door but heard nothing through the thick metal. Spotting a vent high on the wall, she climbed up to listen and heard the faint sounds of a woman crying. Aurora briefly considered breaking down the door to get to her, but there was no telling what was on the other side. Besides, she didn't want to alert every guard in the vicinity. There had to be another entrance. Aurora sat down cross-legged on the stone floor and consulted the map in her head. She'd had a rudimentary idea of the layout of the mine before she entered, and in the 2 days she'd spent crawling around inside had added a lot more detail. She knew she had to be close to the top of the mountain where she'd seen the lookout towers and the heavily guarded buildings. That area and the preceding 3 floors were restricted. None of the miners and only select guards had access. She had assumed it was because that was where the harvested Ethian crystals were kept, but now it seemed that wasn't the only reason. If her suspicion was correct, an access tunnel ran from one of the buildings up top to this barred room. There was only one way to find out. Aurora got up, put her hand against the metal door and whispered, "Hold on, whoever you are. Help is on the way."